it's absolutely brilliant. It's so beautiful. First, everything was pitch black, and then the mountains first got white, then the clouds got orange, then the mountains started to get pink from top to bottom, and then the sun rose slowly over the clouds. It was absolutely beautiful. Namaste, Tashidilek, and welcome back to The Man Who Stare at Mountains. In today's video, we show you everything you need to know about the Kopra Danda Trek. Kopra is a relatively young trek, sitting right between Annapurna Himal and Dhaulagiri Himal, and it connects seamlessly to other popular treks like Poon Hill or the Annapurna Base Camp trek, which we did right before our Kopra Danda Trek, or the Mardi Himal trek, which we also did a couple of days ago. If you haven't seen our trek report about these treks, make sure to check them out because both treks are excellent. Since we are coming directly from the Annapurna Base Camp, we start this Kopra Danda Trek in Chomrong. This means we are approaching Kopra Danda from the east, different to what most other trekkers do. It also gives us the opportunity to visit Muldai viewpoint on the way to Kopra Danda. Here is our plan in detail.
From Chomrong, we take 2 short days to reach the lodges of Dobato via the villages of Gurjung, Chuile and Tatopani. By the way, Tatopani is where you can connect to the Poon Hill trek and the Annapurna circuit. From Dobato, we will climb up to Muldai viewpoint in the morning, and afterwards continue to reach the Kopra Danda community lodge after a long day passing by Bayeli and Chistibung. Kopra Danda will be our base for the day hike up to sacred Kaya Lake, sitting just below Annapurna South and opposite Dhaulagiri, the world's 7th highest mountain. After visiting Kaya Lake, we will descend within 2 days through Chistibung, Swanta, Chitre and Chika to Tatopani, a village down in the Kali Ghandaki Canyon situated on the Annapurna Circuit Trail, featuring comfortable lodges and also hot springs, which we're looking forward to soak in. But to do all that, first we need to climb up to the very top of Chomrong village to take the high trail to Gurjung, as the lower one is blocked by a landslide. We get rewarded by a pretty much unbeaten path through some unspoiled Gurung hamlets.
Namaste.
It's a 3 to 4 hours hike from Chomrong to Chuile. On day 2, we first climb up through some great forests to Tatopani, which takes us a bit less than 2 hours. From there to the 2 tea houses of Isharu, it's a bit more than 2 hours, again through dense foggy forest. After Isharu though, the landscape changes into something very unusual for Nepal, hilly grassland. After walking for another good hour, we reach Dobato and cross fingers that the clouds will disappear overnight, as we want to watch the sunrise from nearby Muldai viewpoint next morning.
Good morning from the best seat in the house to one of the best sunrises in the world. Good morning from Muldai viewpoint. It's just 30 minutes above Dobato. Sunrise is at about 6. We started at 5:30 in the dark with our head torches on, made our way up, and it's absolutely brilliant. It's so beautiful. First, everything was pitch black, and then the mountains first got white, then the clouds got orange, then the mountains started to get pink from top to bottom, and then the sun rose slowly over the clouds. It was absolutely beautiful. At Muldai there is a view tower which is probably 3 or 4 meters high. Doesn't do much, but there is also a swing pointing directly to Annapurna. So if you ever wanted to fly directly towards the Annapurnas in the sunrise, this is where you can do that, and it's brilliant.
To make our way to Kopra Danda below the Annapurna's western slopes, we need to hike around several smaller ridges, which means we will finally lose sight of Mount Machaputchare for the remainder of this trek. As we prepared to say farewell to the majestic fishtail which accompanied us through the last 10 days, a huge vulture dropped by to greet us. After an easy hour of hiking, we reach the tea house of Bayeli. From there, it's 2 hours and a good 600 vertical meters down to Chistibung, also known as Dankaka. After having lunch in one of Chistibung's 2 lodges, we start the 2-hour or 700 meter climb up to Kopra Danda. As usual, some clouds rolled in during the afternoon, but unfortunately these seemed to be a bit more dense than on the other days before, leaving us worried about the weather for the next morning, when we wanted to climb up another 1000 vertical meters from Kopra to the sacred Khyr Lake.
It's very foggy now and a bit chilly. Can hardly see more than 20 or 30 meters in front of me, but according to the map, Kopra Danda Community Lodge should be right around the corner. It looks like we are finally out of luck after 2 weeks trekking in great weather. The clouds have caught up with us. We started this morning for Khyr Lake. It's supposed to be a 4.5-hour walk one way. Khyr Lake sits right below Annapurna South, so one should have great views of the Annapurnas, and on the other side of the Kali Ghandaki valley of the Dhaulagiris. But even when we started, it didn't look very promising because the clouds were already up on Kopra Danda. Then when we started walking, it actually did look promising because the clouds opened up a bit and we could see the mountains around us. We could see Annapurna South, Annapurna Fang, we could see Dhaulagiri and Tukucha Peak, but then they closed again, and since then we are in thick fog. We thought about turning back because without any vision the trip doesn't make too much sense, but then every once in a while clouds opened up for a minute or two, so we kept our hope, but it never really cleared up, and now we are back in cloud soup. Nevertheless, we are only about 100 vertical meters away from Khyr Lake, so we will definitely finish this hike. See you when we're there. Well, that wasn't too successful. A little bit unfortunate, but you win some, you lose some, I guess. The walk to the lake took us 4.5 hours, plus a tea break, and the walk back down to the Kopra Danda Community Lodge takes about 3 hours, plus probably a lunch break at the tea shop. So it's about 4 p.m. and we're almost back at the Kopra Danda Lodge. But it doesn't mean that we are done for today, because we will pack our big backpacks and try to get down to Chistibung to have an easier day tomorrow.
The hike from Chistibung down to the Kali Ghandaki valley could actually be done in one day, but since we're lazy and wanted to sleep in for once, we split that descent in two. The first day takes us down through Swanta, across the river and on the other side up to Chitre. From there, on our last day, we follow the Annapurna circuit trail, and unfortunately often the road replacing it, down through Shika and Gara to the bottom of the canyon. From there, it's just half an hour to our final destination, Tatopani village and its hot springs. Sharing the trail with trucks reminds us that we finally reached the Annapurna circuit. Before I show you the rest of our hike to the hot springs of Tatopani, let me summarize our Muldai Kopra Kayak trek for you, so that you can compare it to the other treks we covered on our channel. If you want to go only to Kopra from the west side, you need 2 days up and 1.5 days down. The hike to Kayak Lake adds 1 day. From the east side, depending on where you start, for example near Gandruk or Jinu, you need 1.5 days to Doban and Muldai viewpoint and another day to Kopra. To visit all the places you've seen in this video, you should need about 6 days. The time from Pokhara to Tatopani or vice versa is about 5 hours. To reach the trailheads on the east side from Pokhara, you need about 3 to 4 hours. In terms of permits, as of fall 2022, you only need the Annapurna Conservation Area permit for about $25, as TIMS is currently not required along the trails in Nepal. This could very well change in the future, so check before you set off. Hiring a guide is not mandatory on the Kopra Danda Trek. If you bring a GPS app like maps.me or mappy.cz, navigation is easy enough to not get lost. However, in our case there were 2 trails mentioned in the apps that were actually blocked or unsafe to walk, so ask the locals, for example your hosts in the lodge, about which trails to take. Kopra Danda sits at about 3,640 meters. If you don't plan to sleep there, you'll most probably sleep at Chistibung at about 3,000 meters. If you sleep up at Kopra though, you can visit 4,650 meter high Kayak Lake, the highest point on our 2 week southern Annapurna trek. Kopra Danda is not the most difficult trek in Nepal. The climbs up to Dobato from Tatopani or to Kopra from Chistibung are steep, but not as steep as some sections on the ABC trek. The day hike to Kali Lake though is very long, so start early in the morning if you're a slow hiker. Kopra isn't very dangerous either. The trails are well marked and the highest possible point to spend the night is just about 3,600 meters, so altitude sickness shouldn't become a huge factor either. The main thing to consider though is that the trails are not very busy. You can walk for hours without meeting anyone, especially when approaching on the east. So if anything happens, you're less likely to be found by passersby than on the more popular treks. We suggest you don't do this trek alone, especially not the day hike to Kali Lake. Of course, on the other hand, this remoteness is what might make the Kopra Danda Trek extremely alluring for many avid Nepal trekkers. You won't meet many other hikers on the way from the Modikola Valley to Tatopani, Dobato and Chistibung. On the western side, there might be a bit more traffic, but you can descend through Paudar or Narchang if you want to avoid the Annapurna circuit. As you might have expected, the tea houses on this trek are more on the basic side. In Dobato and Chistibung you might find a hot shower. Up at the Kopra Lodge, only buckets. We were rather surprised to find decent Wi-Fi there though. The lodges along the Poon Hill Trail, meaning Tatopani or between Swanta and Tatopani, tend to be more comfortable. Keep in mind there is only one lodge at Kopra, so if you happen to get there at the same time with a large group, the lodge might fill up. Like the two treks we did before, Mardi and ABC, the Kopra Danda trek also doesn't feature really large villages or significant religious architecture. However, Kali Lake is a very sacred place to Hindus, so you'll find several small shrines on the way to the lake. There are also some interesting Maga villages along the way down to the Kali Ghandaki valley. In terms of landscape, the Kopra Danda trek won't disappoint. The viewpoint at Muldai is certainly among the best spots below 4,000 meters I know, and the views towards the Dhaulagiris and the Annapurnas are just stunning. Further along the way to Kopra and up to Kali Lake, you get even more chances to admire Dhaulagiri 1, Annapurna South and Annapurna Feng. If you go all the way down to Tatopani, you can also see Nilgiri towering in the north about the Kali Ghandaki Canyon. But before we take you back to the road to Tatopani, please tell us what you think about the Kopra Danda trek. Is a combination of Muldai, Kopra and Kali Lake something you might try? Comment below this video and don't forget to leave a thumbs up if you enjoyed watching it. Also consider subscribing if you'd like to see more of Nepal. With that out of the way, let's walk the last few hundred meters on the dusty road to Tatopani. Fortunately, Tatopani's hot springs are the perfect place to rinse off the sand and dust we collected on the former Annapurna circuit. The next morning, we conclude our epic 2-week trek along the southern slopes of the Annapurnas, as we throw our backpacks on the top of a bus, which of course breaks down after a few kilometers, but then continues to rattle, shake and hop us all the way to beautiful Pokhara within about 5 hours. During the last 15 days, we ascended the ridge of Mardi Himal, where we came face to face with beautiful Mount Machapuchare. We entered the Modikola Canyon, leading us up to the giant south face of the world's 10th highest mountain, and finally we continued towards the breathtaking Muldai viewpoint and the mystical Kali Lake. While we're looking forward to relax a bit on the shores of Lake Feva, why don't you subscribe to our channel for more videos on hiking, trekking and traveling Nepal and the Himalayas. In the meantime, thank you very much for watching and see you in the next video.